Warren Gatland has announced his 33-man Welsh squad for the upcoming Rugby World Cup. So first of all, we are just going to run down through who's in the squad. Then we talk about who is excluded for various reasons, and then talk a little bit about the makeup of the squad as well. So we've got Tane Basham. So we start forward, Tane Basham, Adam Beard, Elliot Dee, Corey Domachowski, Ryan Elias, Tulipe Falatau, Thomas Francis, David Jenkins, Derry Lake, Dylan Lewis, Dan Lilly, Jack Morgan, Tommy Reffel, Will Rowlands, Dickie Smith, Gareth Thomas, Henry Thomas, Christ Chionza, and Aaron Wainwright. The backs then, Josh Adams, Garrett Anscombe, Dan Bigger, Sam Costello, Garrett Davis, Rio Dyer, Mason Grady, Lee Halfpenny, George North, Luz Rizamet, Nick Tompkins, Johnny Williams, Liam Williams, and Tomas Williams. Okay, so that is the squad. So these guys were picked from a wider squad of 48, and so 15 of those players haven't made the cut. So you got, a lot of them are kind of either inexperienced or, players who didn't do themselves really any favours in the warm-up games. So you got the likes of Kieran Azarati, Ben Carter, Rhys Davis, Kemsley Matthias, Sam Parry, Tane Plumtree, Teddy Williams. So a lot of those guys, they were only on a few caps each, and they played in games where Wales didn't do all that well overall. So not really having the best chance to maybe impress. You got Alex Cuthbert there as well, who has been a good servant for Wales. Not been in the best form. There's a lot of competition on the wing, and you had the likes of Rio Dyer emerging during the Six Nations as well. That probably put a lot of pressure on him. You got Kai Evans, who I thought went pretty well at the weekend against the Box, but just not enough really to make it in the end, I guess. Kieran Hardy, Max Llewellyn, Joe Robertson, Tom Rogers. I don't think either of those did all that well in the warm-up games either, so I'm not really surprised that they were excluded. Kieran Williams and Owen Williams. So Owen Williams was in the mix during the Six Nations. It looked like at the time at least that it could be between himself and Bigger for the starting 10, but now he's completely out, and Gareth Anscombe is back in. So you see how in Wales, like, people's stock can rise and fall very quickly. But I'd imagine that maybe himself and Cuthbert may be on, some kind of standby list for injury cover and stuff like that. But yeah, if we talk about like the Wales team in the Six Nations, because there were players who were in and out all through the Six Nations. Like Chris Chionza looked like he was in favour. Then he got sent back to his club, and then now he's going to the World Cup. But like the opening game against Ireland in the Six Nations, the Welsh 23 had a total of 1,132 caps. So that is an average of just under 50 caps each, 49.22 caps per player. And that's even more amazing when you look at so the starting lineup had Joe Hawkins, who had only one previous cap at that time, Rio Dyer, who had 3 before that, Jack Morgan only had 6. Then on the bench as well, they had David Jenkins with just 1 cap previous, Tommy Reffel just 4 caps previous, and Owen Williams just 3 caps previous. So there were a lot of players, who aren't going to the World Cup, who had a lot of caps there. So at the time, you had Ken Owens, 86 caps, Alan Wynne Jones, 155, Justin Tipuric, 89, Scott Baldwin, 34, Rhys Kerr, 17, and Rhys Webb, 36. Some of them added to their caps since then. But, all these guys, some of them retired, injured, just not selected for the summer squad at all. But none of them are going to the Rugby World Cup. The squad itself then has, 33 players have a total of 1,297 caps, and that is an average of just under 40 caps each. So the average number of caps per player has gone down by 10 compared to the opener in the Six Nations. You got some players in there as well with 0 to 24 caps. They have 13 players. 35 to 49 to have 10 players, 50 to 99 6 players, and 100 plus to have 4 players. So on the lower end of the caps, like in single digits, you have Corey Damichevsky with 2 caps, David Jenkins 7, Dewi Lake has 9, Henry Thomas 2, and Christ Junza has 7. Then who else then? We have Sam Costello has just 4. Rio Dyer has hit 9 now. Mason Grady 4 as well. And then Johnny Williams with 6. So some of those players, with single cap there will just be wider squad players at the World Cup. Some of them, the likes of Rio Dyer, obviously Jack Morgan, Dewi Lake, those guys are going to be starting games and big games as well for Wales. So, it's kind of going to be interesting the way the balance of the squad is, because there's a lot of players with not much experience, and then you have some players with vast numbers of experience. So you got like Felipe Faletau with 100 caps to his name. Then we've also got in the back, Stan Bigger 109. We have Lee Halfpenny 100 caps, and then George North 114. So lots of experience there from those guys. And then past World Cup experience, you got like Adam Beard was there in 2019, as was Elliot D. Ryan Elias was there too. Felipe Faletau, it's crazy to think this, but I guess it's through injury. He hasn't been at a World Cup since 2011. That's the only World Cup he's been to. So fingers crossed, injury doesn't strike again. He actually gets to appear in this one. Thomas Francis was there in 2015 and 2019. Dylan Lewis was there in 2019. Dan Lilly 2011 and 2015. Then we have Nicky Smith was there in 2019, as was Aaron Wainwright. Garrett Anscombe was there in 2015 but missed out in 2019. Dan Bigger 2015 and 19. Garrett Davis the same. Lee Halfpenny 2011 and 2019. George North 2015 and 2019. And Liam Williams 2015 and 2019 as well. Then the last player with World Cup experience is Tomas Williams, who was there in 2019 as well. So, they have a core of players who have been to World Cups before, but they're going to have to help out these younger guys who aren't just not having been in World Cups before, that they don't have that much test experience at all, the ones in single figures. And, changing coach obviously has a big impact on it. And, you would expect a lot of these players that if Gallen had been there earlier and identified these players, that they probably would have been up near kind of, midway through the teens or maybe into the 20s in terms of caps at this stage. So there is kind of, a caveat on that, I guess, or, some reason for it. In terms of then looking at the squad itself, like, there is some decent players in there. Like, Wales obviously haven't been in great form. They've kind of been they looked okay in that win against England, but then the reverse didn't look great, and then against South Africa looked absolutely woeful. So, it's hard to tell what's going to happen with them. But, you've got the likes of, I think Faletau is key in the back row, even though, he's getting on a bit, and he's probably not going to be available for all the games, because I'd imagine he's going to pick up a knock here or there. But, him and 8 just makes him look like a different team. Then you've obviously got Jack Morgan, who's going to be one of the co-captains in that back row as well. And then it's about who's going to be in there with him. It's going to be Dan Lydiot or like Tame Basham, Tommy Reffel. Is Wainwright actually going to get the nod over Faletau at 8? Or is Chris Junza going to be involved in there as well? So there's plenty of competition there for the spots there. I think second row, looking maybe a little bit light in terms of who they can pick in the second row. So we'll have to see how that plays out for them. You got Dewi Lake as a co-captain as well. At hooker, and then so front row they have a few players. There are a few players with experience and a few players like the likes of Domachowski with not that much experience under the belt at test level at all. But then again you got in the second row the likes of Adam Beard there, but beyond that, it's hard to see with Wales what their starting pack looks like, because I'm not sure whether Gatland knows what his starting pack is yet. And that might even evolve through the pool stage too, where you might see a very different, if they should really get into the quarterfinals, but you've got Australia and Fiji in there as well, who are definitely going to be gunning for them. So, but if they make it into the quarterfinals, you could see a very different pack, or even like first 15 playing in that quarterfinal compared to the team that will actually start the tournament for them. In the backs then as well, like you got the likes of Josh Adams, who we know what he can do. Like he's been in decent form for Wales in the past, but he hasn't really featured that much in these warm-ups either. So that's going to kind of be interesting. Then you got Garrett Anscombe getting called back into the squad as well. I know he was in the wider squad, but hasn't really featured again in the warm-ups. Has really been bigger. Sam Costello and Owen Williams, kind of, it looked like the three of them were maybe fighting out, but now Anscombe is in as well. So the whole thing of who's the starting 10, we're not sure of that. And again, that could change through the pool stages and into knockouts as well. Then you got the likes of Tomas Williams and Gareth Davis there, battling out for 9. And for me, Tomas Williams should be the starting 9, but we'll see what happens there. Then on the wing, I said you got Josh Adams, we also got Rio Dyer, you got Louis Rees-Zammit there too. You could have maybe Lee Halfpenny or Liam Williams also filling in on the wing there as well. So, they have decent competition there. Centres, then you got George North, you got Tompkins, and you got Mason Grady. Mason Grady, he really did have like a brain fade against South Africa, where he just flung the ball. He was actually trying to fling the ball over his shoulder forward because he's running towards his own line, and then he ended up giving away a try. So you've got to be a little more composed there. And George North, if he's fit, is definitely going to start in the centres there. I think Liam Williams will probably get the nod over Lee Halfpenny at fullback. But with the two of them, with Halfpenny and Williams, they have that whole thing as well of kind of like Faletau, of always seem to be carrying knocks, and they won't play all the games. So, somebody else might have to fill in there at fullback as well. So when they have to kind of rejig things, it's going to be interesting to see how they actually look if they have to do that. Are they, who are they, like if Halfpenny and Williams are out, who are you going to play at fullback? Like, are you going to risk giving it to Rees-Zammit or Adams, or even like I suppose Gareth Anscombe could play back there as well, but you'd still be a bit worried about any of those really having to fill in there. But it's kind of strange again with this Welsh side that it's hard to really pick who the first 15. For most of the other teams, like at least the settled teams, I think England are kind of the same as Wales, but England are maybe even slightly more settled than Wales. Like, it's really hard to pick, who's the first 15. If everyone is fit and available, who's the first 15 that play against Australia? There's a lot of calls in there that Gatland has to make before that game, and the same with Fiji as well. You want your best players available, but you want consistency there for combinations to work, and they haven't looked like they're clicking at all in the backs either. So like, they have had times when they're they're running the ball and stuff in moments of danger, but not really been opening up defenses completely. Like they get to a certain point and then it breaks down. So yeah, it's an interesting squad that Gatlin has picked. Like he obviously decided at some point that he was going to go with some younger guys for this, and maybe not as bad as maybe Eddie Jones. Maybe bad is the wrong word, because young players can go to a World Cup and have absolutely no fear and produce amazing performances, where players who've got 100 odd caps can make silly mistakes as well. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with this. Like, if you're a Wales fan, let me know what you think Wales' first 15 is, because at the moment it's other than a few key players, the likes of Morgan, Beard, Lake, and maybe George North. Other than that, it's hard to actually definitively pick a 15 for them. So yeah, let me know what you think on the squad.